is July 22nd, 2023. This is one interview in our ongoing series to be part of High Hope's video and oral archive. We're here in Lyme, Connecticut on Selden Road, on Joshua Town Road with Dick Lightfoot. And Dick has been involved with High Hopes really since the beginning. But one of the key events in the foundation's development was a meeting here in Dick and Judy's living room in the early 80s of the major stakeholders. And Dick, would you tell us about that first meeting of major stakeholders?
Yes, let me start off by saying I've been known as Mr. Judy Lightfoot for all my life. So this is Judy's story, and I have just only a little background to add. There are three things I want to emphasize. One was total admiration for Sis Gould and how she maneuvered all of us into doing this idea's work. She led from behind and was indomitable. She tapped Judy quite early when High Hopes, then Elsie Vera, started. But, and I think others can speak to how it started. Judy got involved, I think, the first year after she was the second president. Paul Pierce was president for a year, and then Judy came on for 5 years. But I wanted to comment on Sis Gould's leadership style. But going back to your question about the meeting we had in this living room, it was a time when there wasn't a lot of confidence amongst the people in the leadership group, and everybody spent time waiting for a big donor to make the whole thing happen, and I saw it wasn't happening. So Judy and I invited everybody, or not everybody, but 10 or 12 people: Barbara Kashansky, Emily Griswold, Connie Davison, Grace Hamilton. I'm going to forget somebody. I apologize for that. But the plan was not to look for some one person to underwrite everything, but to have all these people together. And the way we set it up was I gave everybody an envelope, and the envelope had only one thing inside, and it was a little note that said $25,000, $75,000, $50,000, and I handed them out to the 12 or 14 people who were assembled, and I expected some pushback because I thought that was a fairly aggressive amount of money, but had no pushback at all. And as a matter of fact, one person who was put down for $5,000 sent a check for $25,000. So I had underestimated the capacity of that person. But in any event, that probably allowed High Hopes to have a cache of money that could be used to develop further. Many of these kinds of programs in other parts of the country are one-man shows and don't have a durability. And so the combination of Sis engaging everybody else to do the work of High Hopes, and I think nearly $500,000 allowed the High Hopes to get a start.
And then one of the next major phases of fundraising for High Hopes was the Symphony in the Meadows, the first Symphony in the Meadows, which is the annual benefit that occurred in June, and you were instrumental in creating that event.
Well, one of the other things was you might have had this $500,000 pot, but you more money in order to run the program. And at the time, in the early 80s, none of the other local institutions had a charitable fundraiser. And we decided we'd go big and we'd hire the Haven Symphony to come out here and play. And I think we sold 600 tickets. At that time, it was maybe $100 a ticket. I can't remember. And I think the first time it netted maybe $150,000, which was helpful in the ongoing program. The first concert was held down at Grace Hamilton's, in Frank Hamilton's house. We had Kira. No, we didn't have Kira. Von Stade was the soprano with the orchestra, and it was highly successful. It had a dinner, etc. But as soon as High Hopes did that, every other organization, including the Florence Griswold, the Academy, the Essex River Group, started having similar events. The first event was so successful that I think Judy was embarrassed to go to the same people again to ask for participation. And so the second year was a dry year. We didn't do anything. And the third year we went back and did another symphony and decided that we should do it every year. And in between symphony, we would have in the barn some wonderful events. Judy Collins, the Kingston Trio, Rita Coolidge, and many other events. And it's become an annual. I think it's very important in the continuing financial health of the organization.
And part of the main, our main ability to attract the New Haven Symphony, you were a symphony board member at the time,
Yeah,
so
I was president.
So the major liaison. And how was the symphony? How were your fellow board members and also your conductor? Had they done this type of nonprofit event before, aside for?
Oh yes, I think they have.
Okay.
They had.
So they were. There was no pushback on coming to Lyme to be in the middle of a field.
No. Sometimes in the lights overhead at night, the flies would buzz all over the place, and every once in a while the viola player would go. But it was a wonderful event, and it was a dress-up event, and it had I think it helped in developing support for other people.
And you mentioned that the first one was at Grace and Frank Hamilton's, which actually was right across the cove behind you.
That's right.
And then were the next three here on your?
The first two were at Frank and Grace's. The next three were here. The one after that was Emily Griswold and Emily Fisher and Evan Griswold. And then it morphed into where we are now. It's an annual fundraiser, and it's increasing. I mean, it's more successful than ever. So.
And would you speak? I know you mentioned Sis's ability to kind of just pinpoint people and get them involved, and that was how she brought Judy and you into the organization. I feel that Judy either inherently had also that ability, but I'm involved in High Hopes because Judy did the same thing to me. She learned it at Sis's feet, and then she came to me and tapped me in the barn one day as I was leading a horse and said, would you like to come learn more about this and help with this? Judy is such an instrumental part of the history of High Hopes. Could you just give us some insight into her involvement, how you observed it? She was involved with High Hopes, but also on the national and international level with just the development of the field of therapeutic riding itself. Can you just give us a little insight into Judy's involvement?
Well, I think I feel that Sis's example of leadership was instrumental and Judy followed it. I suspect it was also a natural ability she had. But she was a person who could build consensus. She seldom would stand out in front and say, "This is the way we're going to do it." Agree? That was more my style. Hers was to involve everybody, and I don't ever remember having a negative relationship with anybody involved in any of the charitable organizations she worked in. So she was very special.
She was. Is there anything else you'd like to address? Any other funny memories, irreverent, because we can always cut them. If there's a story you don't want to go on record, you wouldn't be the first.
It's a remarkable organization. There must be 750 or 800 places around the country that also do therapeutic writing, and we're surely in the top 3 to 5. And that's a result, I think, of Sis's initial seed, which was lead from behind.